The ringed seal never sees it coming. One moment it's resting on the ice, basking in the brief Arctic sunlight, completely unaware. The next moment, 1,500 pounds of muscle and claws erupts from the water directly beneath it, moving with a speed that seems impossible for something so massive. The polar bear's jaws close around the seal's head before the seal can even react. The bite crushes bone instantly. The seal doesn't struggle, doesn't try to escape. It's already dead, killed in less than 2 seconds by an animal that just accelerated from a motionless float to a vertical launch faster than the seal's nervous system could process the threat. This isn't luck. This isn't a desperate animal getting a fortunate kill. This is precision hunting by a predator so perfectly adapted to its environment that it has evolved techniques other apex predators can't even attempt. And here's what makes this kill terrifying from a biological perspective. The polar bear has been floating motionless in freezing water, completely submerged except for its nostrils, for over 40 minutes. The water temperature is 29 degrees Fahrenheit, cold enough to kill most mammals through hypothermia in less than 10 minutes. The polar bear's body temperature has barely dropped. Its muscles are still fully functional, still capable of explosive power, still ready to execute a kill that requires perfect timing and devastating force. This is what makes the polar bear the deadliest predator on the planet. Not because it's the biggest, grizzly bears can match its size. Not because it has the strongest bite, that belongs to crocodiles. Not because it's the most aggressive, though it absolutely is among the most dangerous to humans. The polar bear is the deadliest because it combines lethal capabilities that shouldn't exist together in a single animal. It's a 1,500-pound ambush predator that can swim for days without rest. It's a carnivore that can survive in temperatures that would kill other predators through pure cold. It's an animal with the patience to wait motionless for hours and the explosive power to kill in seconds. And it operates in an environment so extreme, so unforgiving, that the very act of surviving there requires biological adaptations that push the limits of what mammalian physiology can achieve. So why is the polar bear the deadliest predator on the planet? What makes it so perfectly engineered for killing that it has essentially no competition in its environment? And how did evolution create something so dangerous that even humans, with all our technology, treat encounters with polar bears as potentially fatal? Because when you understand the extreme biology behind this animal, when you see exactly how its body works and what it's capable of, you'll realize that the polar bear isn't just another large predator. It's the result of millions of years of evolution, creating the perfect killing machine for the harshest environment on Earth. A polar bear is hunting on the sea ice north of Alaska. It's been walking for 6 hours without stopping, covering over 20 miles, searching for seals. The temperature is 40 degrees below zero. The wind is blowing at 30 miles per hour, creating a wind chill that would freeze exposed human skin in under 5 minutes. The polar bear doesn't care. It's not cold. It's not struggling. It's barely even working hard, just walking steadily across the ice, like this is a pleasant spring day instead of conditions that would kill most mammals within hours. This is the first thing you need to understand about polar bear biology. They don't just tolerate extreme cold. They're so well adapted to freezing temperatures that heat is actually more dangerous to them than cold. A polar bear can overheat at temperatures above 50 degrees Fahrenheit. 50 degrees. That's a temperature most humans would consider mildly chilly. For a polar bear, it's approaching dangerous levels of heat stress. This seems insane until you understand the insulation system polar bears have evolved. And it's not just one system. It's multiple layers of protection working together to trap heat so efficiently that polar bears are essentially invisible to thermal imaging cameras. Start with the fur. Polar bear fur isn't white, despite how it looks. Each individual hair is transparent and hollow, a tube filled with air. These hollow hairs act like fiber optic cables, channeling sunlight down to the bear's black skin, which absorbs the heat. But they also trap air in thousands of tiny pockets, creating an insulation layer that prevents heat from escaping the body. The fur is so effective that you can put your hand on a polar bear's back and feel almost no warmth radiating from its body. All that heat is being trapped inside, preserved by an insulation system that's more efficient than most human-made materials. But the fur is just the outer layer. Underneath it sits 4 inches of blubber, a continuous layer of fat that covers the bear's entire body. This blubber serves double duty. It insulates, trapping heat like a wetsuit, and it stores energy, allowing the bear to survive for months without food when hunting is impossible. 4 inches might not sound like much until you realize that's 4 inches of insulation wrapped around an animal the size of a small car. The total mass of blubber on a large male polar bear can exceed 200 pounds. That's 200 pounds of stored energy and thermal protection. And this creates a problem. Because with insulation this effective, the polar bear generates heat just from normal metabolism, from the chemical processes that keep its cells alive. In extreme cold, this isn't an issue. The heat dissipates slowly enough that the bear stays warm. But when the bear exerts itself, when it runs or fights or hunts actively, that heat builds up fast. This is why you rarely see polar bears running. They overheat too quickly. A polar bear chasing prey at full sprint can only maintain that pace for about a mile before its body temperature rises to dangerous levels and it has to stop and cool down. So how does an animal with insulation this extreme hunt successfully? How do you catch prey when you can't chase it for more than a few minutes without overheating? The answer is what makes polar bears so deadly. They don't chase prey. They ambush it with techniques so patient and calculated that they seem more like planned military operations than animal behavior. The polar bear has been floating in the water for 45 minutes now. Just its nose breaks the surface. 2 small black nostrils that are almost invisible against the dark water. The rest of its massive body hangs beneath the surface, perfectly still, positioned directly below a breathing hole that a seal uses to access air. Seals are mammals. They have to breathe. And in the Arctic, where ice covers the ocean for miles in every direction, seals can only breathe at holes they maintain in the ice, places where they come up regularly to gulp air before diving back down to hunt for fish. The polar bear knows this. It has learned through experience that if you find a seal's breathing hole and wait long enough, the seal will eventually surface. And when it does, you have maybe 2 seconds to execute a kill before it escapes back into the water. This is ambush hunting taken to an extreme that borders on absurd. The water is freezing, literally below the freezing point of fresh water, kept liquid only by salt content. The bear has been motionless for nearly an hour. Most predators would give up. Most predators would decide the energy cost of waiting isn't worth the uncertain payoff. But the polar bear's biology makes this strategy viable. That 4-inch layer of blubber isn't just insulation against air temperature. It insulates in water too, preventing the cold from pulling heat directly from the bear's body the way it would with a thinner predator. And the bear's fur, even when wet, maintains some insulating capacity because those hollow hairs trap tiny pockets of air even when submerged. This creates a microclimate around the bear's skin, a thin layer of slightly warmer water that reduces heat loss. But the real adaptation is in the bear's metabolism. Polar bears can throttle their metabolic rate down when they're waiting, reducing heat production and energy expenditure to the minimum needed to stay alive. It's not true hibernation. They remain alert and ready to react, but it's a voluntary slowdown that lets them wait for hours without burning through their energy reserves. Then the seal surfaces. Its head breaks through the water, whiskers twitching, eyes scanning for threats. It sees nothing dangerous. The polar bear is still motionless, still invisible, hanging in the water 3 feet below the breathing hole. The seal takes a breath. And in that instant, the polar bear explodes upward. The acceleration is brutal. 0 to full speed in less than a second. Powerful hind legs driving the bear vertically through the water, front legs already extending, claws already spreading, jaws already opening for the bite. The bear's head breaks the surface and the jaws snap shut on the seal's skull before the seal can dive. The bite force is over 1,200 pounds per square inch, enough to crush a bowling ball. The seal's skull collapses. The brain is destroyed instantly. Death is immediate. The entire attack, from the first movement to the killing bite, takes less than 2 seconds. And it required the polar bear to go from complete stillness to explosive violence faster than the seal could react, despite being in freezing water for almost an hour. This is why the polar bear is so deadly. It's not just powerful, it's patient enough to wait for the perfect moment, insulated enough to stay functional in conditions that would incapacitate other predators, and explosive enough to execute kills that require split-second timing. But the breathing hole ambush is just one technique. Because polar bears have learned to hunt seals in multiple ways, each one adapted to different ice conditions and different seal behaviors. When the ice is thick and seals are hauled out on the surface instead of using breathing holes, polar bears use a completely different strategy. They stalk. A polar bear spots a seal resting on ice 400 yards away. The ice is flat, almost featureless, offering no cover. Most predators would give up. You can't sneak up on prey across flat ice when you weigh 1,500 pounds and the prey has excellent vision. But the polar bear doesn't give up. It lies flat. Not crouched, not hunched, but completely flat against the ice, belly pressed down, head lowered, becoming as two-dimensional as possible. Then it begins to move. Not walking, crawling, using its front legs to pull itself forward while the hind legs push, keeping its body profile as low as possible, moving in slow motion across the ice. Every few yards, the bear stops and freezes. If the seal looks up, if it shows any sign of alarm, the bear becomes a statue, completely motionless, not even breathing visibly. Just a white shape on white ice that the seal's brain categorizes as a chunk of ice or a snowdrift, not a threat. When the seal looks away, the bear resumes crawling, inches at a time, patient, methodical. Covering 400 yards this way can take over an hour. But here's what makes this stalking behavior remarkable. The polar bear is making constant tactical decisions. If the seal is looking in the bear's direction, the bear freezes. If the seal looks away, the bear advances. If there's a slight rise in the ice that offers minimal cover, the bear adjusts its path to use it. If the wind shifts and starts blowing from the bear toward the seal, the bear changes angles to keep downwind. This is situational awareness and strategic planning. This is an animal that understands line of sight, understands wind direction carrying scent, understands that patient stalking has a better success rate than an early charge that alerts the prey, and it works. Researchers studying polar bear hunting have documented success rates of over 50% when bears use this stalking technique on the right ice conditions. That's astonishingly high. Most ambush predators have success rates below 30%. Even lions, hunting in coordinated prides, only succeed about 25% of the time. But the polar bear, hunting alone, in an environment where a failed hunt means potentially days without food, succeeds more often than not when it commits to a proper stalk. And when the bear gets within 30 feet, it charges. The acceleration is terrifying. A polar bear can go from motionless to 25 miles per hour in just a few seconds. That's faster acceleration than most humans can achieve in a sprint. And the bear maintains that speed across ice, across snow, across terrain that would slow down almost any other predator. The seal sees the charge and bolts for the water. If it reaches the water, it escapes. Seals are faster swimmers than polar bears. Once in the water, the seal can dive to depths the bear can't reach, can maneuver in ways that make pursuit impossible. But the bear has timed this perfectly. The charge began at exactly the distance where the bear's acceleration gives it just enough speed to close the gap before the seal reaches safety. The bear's paw swings out, claws extended, and catches the seal just as it's sliding toward the ice edge. Those claws are 3 inches long, curved, sharp enough to tear through seal skin like paper. They sink into the seal's flesh and drag it backward, away from the water, away from safety. Then the jaws close. The killing bite to the head or neck, crushing force that ends the struggle immediately. This is the complete hunting package. Strategic stalking based on environmental awareness, perfect timing of the final charge, explosive speed to close distance, physical power to grab and hold prey that's fighting for its life, and a killing bite that ends things instantly. But even this isn't the full picture of polar bear lethality, because there's a third hunting technique that reveals just how intelligent and adaptable these predators really are. A polar bear is hunting near a seal lair, a cavity that a seal has excavated in the snow on top of the ice. The lair is hidden, invisible from the surface, connected to the water below by a breathing hole. Inside, a seal pup is resting, safe from predators, protected by several feet of packed snow and ice. Most predators would never find this lair. Even if they did, they couldn't access it. The entrance is through the breathing hole, underwater, inaccessible to anything that can't swim and hold its breath. But the polar bear has learned a technique that seems almost impossible. It's going to break in from above. The bear walks across the ice, pausing every few steps, head lowered. It's not looking for visual signs of the lair. It's smelling. Polar bears have olfactory capabilities that rival any predator on Earth. They can smell a seal from over a mile away. They can smell a seal lair hidden beneath 3 feet of snow. The bear stops. It's detected something. The faint scent of seal coming from directly below. Then it stands on its hind legs, rears up to its full height of over 10 feet, and crashes down with its front paws directly onto the snow. The impact is devastating. 1,500 pounds dropping from 8 feet up, concentrated through 2 paws that are each the size of dinner plates. The snow compresses, cracks, collapses inward. The roof of the seal lair caves in. If that first impact doesn't break through, the bear does it again. Standing up, dropping down with crushing force, using its body weight as a pile driver to demolish the lair's structural integrity. Once the roof collapses, the bear digs. Not carefully, not slowly, frantically. Because now the seal knows it's under attack and is trying to escape through the breathing hole back into the water. The bear's front legs are incredibly powerful, capable of moving massive amounts of snow and ice in seconds. The claws rake through the debris, enlarging the hole, reaching down toward where the seal is trying to flee. And when the bear's paw finds the seal, those claws grip with enough force to prevent escape. The seal is dragged up through the collapsed lair, pulled into the open where the bear's jaws can deliver the killing bite. This technique requires multiple sophisticated capabilities working together. The bear has to locate the lair using scent alone, discriminating between faint traces and finding the exact position. It has to understand that breaking the lair's roof makes the seal accessible. It has to execute the break-in with enough force and speed that the seal can't escape before the bear can reach it. And most remarkably, this behavior is learned. Young polar bears don't know how to do this instinctively. They learn by watching their mothers, by trial and error, by refining the technique over multiple attempts until they can successfully break into lairs and catch pups. This is cultural transmission of hunting knowledge. This is an apex predator teaching its offspring complex behaviors that require understanding of structure, physics, and timing. And it reveals something crucial about polar bear intelligence. They're not just powerful. They're smart enough to learn new techniques, adaptive enough to use different strategies for different situations, and patient enough to execute hunts that require waiting for hours in freezing water or stalking for miles across open ice. But all of these hunting capabilities, the ambush techniques, the stalking, the lair breaking, none of them would matter if the polar bear couldn't survive the environment long enough to hunt. Because the Arctic isn't just cold. It's a place where the very act of existing requires biological adaptations so extreme they push the boundaries of what mammalian physiology can achieve. A polar bear is swimming. It's been swimming for 11 days straight, covering over 400 miles of open ocean without touching land or ice. The water temperature is barely above freezing, Waves are rolling past, some of them over 6 feet high. Most mammals would have drowned or died from hypothermia days ago. The polar bear just keeps swimming. This isn't a myth. This was documented by researchers who tracked a female polar bear using GPS collar data. They watched as she swam continuously for 11 days, crossing a stretch of open water that had no ice due to seasonal melting, never stopping, never resting, just swimming steadily toward distant ice where she could hunt again. When she finally reached ice and hauled out, she had lost 22% of her body weight. Her yearling cub, which had been with her when the swim started, didn't survive. But she did. She survived an endurance test that should have been fatal, that would have killed almost any other land predator. This reveals the polar bear's most extreme adaptation. They're not just cold weather specialists. They're aquatic endurance swimmers capable of crossing oceans. The polar bear's body is hydrodynamically shaped in ways that most bears aren't. The head is more streamlined. The neck is longer and more flexible. The front paws are partially webbed, creating more surface area for pushing water. Even the way their fur lies flat when wet reduces drag. But the real adaptation is metabolic. During long swims, polar bears enter a state of metabolic efficiency that allows them to burn fat stores slowly, conserving energy over days of continuous movement. Their muscles don't fatigue the way human muscles would. Their cardiovascular system can maintain steady effort for extended periods that would cause other mammals to go into cardiac arrest from exhaustion. And that blubber layer, the same 4 inches that provides insulation against cold, provides buoyancy. Polar bears float easily, even when they stop paddling. This reduces the energy cost of swimming because they don't have to work to stay on the surface. They just need to propel themselves forward, and the fat keeps them buoyant automatically. But even with all these adaptations, an 11-day swim is brutal. The bear that survived it lost muscle mass, burned through a significant portion of her fat reserves, and arrived at the destination in weakened condition. And this reveals the real danger of climate change to polar bears. Not that the Arctic is getting warmer, though it is, but that the ice is melting earlier and forming later each year, creating larger gaps of open water that polar bears have to cross to reach hunting grounds. A 400-mile swim is near the upper limit of what a polar bear can survive. If ice melt increases and forces bears to swim 600 miles, or 800 miles, most of them won't make it. They'll drown from exhaustion or die from hypothermia when their fat stores run out and they lose the insulation and buoyancy that keeps them alive. This is an animal engineered for an environment that's changing faster than evolution can adapt. The polar bear's biology is optimized for hunting on ice, for ambushing seals at breathing holes, for stalking across frozen landscapes. When that ice disappears, when open water replaces solid hunting platforms, the polar bear's deadliest adaptations become less useful. But in the environment they evolved for, in the Arctic when ice is abundant, the polar bear has no competition. They're so dominant, so perfectly adapted, that they've become the only concern for every other animal in their ecosystem. Walruses haul out on beaches instead of ice when polar bears are active in the area. Arctic foxes wait at a safe distance until polar bears finish feeding, hoping for scraps. Even wolves, pack predators that can take down moose, avoid direct confrontation with polar bears. And humans have learned the hard way that polar bears are one of the few large predators that will actively hunt people. Most large predators avoid humans. Grizzly bears attack when surprised or when defending cubs, but they don't see humans as prey. Lions occasionally hunt humans, but it's rare, usually old or injured lions that can't catch normal prey. Sharks bite humans but usually don't consume them, mistaking people for seals. Polar bears are different. To a polar bear, a human is just another potential food source. We're meat, we're calories. And in an environment where food is scarce and unpredictable, a polar bear will absolutely hunt and eat a human if given the opportunity. This is why Arctic communities treat polar bears with extreme caution. This is why research stations in polar bear territory have armed guards and strict protocols. This is why wildlife photographers who work in the Arctic carry high-powered rifles as standard equipment. Because a polar bear looking at you isn't seeing a person. It's seeing 150 pounds of protein and fat. It's seeing a meal. And it has the patience to stalk you, the speed to catch you, and the power to kill you in seconds. The deadliest predator on the planet isn't the one that kills the most. It's the one that's most perfectly engineered for killing in its environment. And the polar bear, with its extreme cold tolerance, its multiple ambush techniques, its ability to swim for days, its crushing bite force, and its willingness to hunt anything edible including humans, is exactly that. It operates in conditions that would kill most predators within hours. It hunts prey that evolved specifically to avoid predation and still succeeds more than half the time. It can wait motionless in freezing water for an hour, then explode into violent action in under 2 seconds. It can stalk for miles across open ice with patience that borders on mechanical. It can break through feet of snow and ice using nothing but body weight and determination. And it does all of this while maintaining the largest body size of any land carnivore, while swimming hundreds of miles through icy seas, while surviving months without food when hunting is impossible. This is extreme biology pushed to its absolute limit. This is what happens when evolution has millions of years to create the perfect predator for the harshest environment on Earth. Every adaptation serves a purpose. Every capability makes the bear more lethal. Every behavior increases hunting success. The polar bear isn't just deadly because it's big or strong or fast. It's deadly because it combines patience with explosive power, intelligence with physical dominance, endurance with precision killing ability. It's deadly because it operates in an environment where one failed hunt might mean starvation, where evolution punished anything less than perfect adaptation, where only the most efficient killers survived long enough to reproduce. And the result is an animal that has essentially no natural predators, no competition, no threats except for the changing climate that's melting the ice it depends on. The deadliest predator on the planet is the one that evolved to dominate an environment so extreme that survival alone is an achievement. The polar bear didn't just survive the Arctic. It became the absolute apex predator of the largest frozen wilderness on Earth, using biology so extreme it challenges the limits of what warm-blooded animals can do. That's what makes it the deadliest. Not just what it can do, but where it can do it, and how perfectly every part of its biology serves the single purpose of killing efficiently in conditions that would destroy almost anything else.